So this is a question that comes up all the time with Jamboard. Can we lock an image on a frame in Jamboard? And the question is sort of. All right. How you're going to do it is if I put an image on here, and I'm going to upload an image real quick. I'm just going to put a coordinate axis on here that I might want my kids to graph on. So I put it on here and I make it the correct size that I want. And I know the quality is not that great, but there's my coordinate grid, right? And maybe I want them to identify points or graph a line or something like that. If the students were to click on this right now, you can see you get the access points around the coordinate grid, and they can click and they can drag. So it becomes kind of tricky when they go to draw on it. If they accidentally don't click on what they draw or drew, they're going to move the whole thing and the line's going to stay there. So here's the trick. What we want to do is we're going to kind of produce an overlay over top of our image. And how we do that is by inserting a text box. Okay? And we're going to take our text box and we're going to draw, and then we're going to expand it. And yes, I know it goes in a rectangle. That's the only thing it can do. Then we're going to shift it over, and we're going to expand it again, and we're going to shift it over, and we're going to expand it again. So what we're trying to do is to make this so big that no matter where we are, where the students are, it's just creating an overlay over top of our image. Okay, and we're just going to make it as big as we possibly can. And then we drag it down a little bit. So now when I click on my mouse in my select tool, you see I can't move it. Okay, it stays put. All right, now I can have my students draw on this. They can draw their line. They can come back to the select tool, and you can see it's not moving. All right, so that's how you kind of lock the image on the background. You can do the same thing, like if I had a picture of the map of the United States and I wanted them to identify certain states. Again, I'd put it up here and I'd resize it how I wanted. And then I insert my text box over the top of this. And then you expand the text box. And what we're doing is we're kind of creating a poor man's overlay over top of the image. Click and drag it over, move it up. Click and drag. Again, over and up. Click and drag. Over and up. And that's kind of as big as it's going to get. So what we did is we put a transparency over the top of our image. So now the students, they can identify where is Nebraska. Here's Nebraska. All right. So that's how you kind of lock an image on a Google Jamboard. My second favorite trick with Google Jamboard is getting these fancy fonts into Jam. Okay. So if you click a text box and you click on the Jam, you're limited to what you can type for a font. Okay. Jamboard hacks. Yes, I can come up here and change the subtitle, the size, make it however I want. I can even change the color if I so choose. And you can also change the size by dragging the activation points down on the corner. All right. But you'll notice you didn't see anything that looked like this up at the top where it says 60 with Saint, where I changed it to a fancy font. So the trick to getting the font in here is to open up a Google Doc right next to your Google Jamboard. And then I type whatever I want on my Google Jamboard over in my Google Doc. And then I use my screenshot tool, Light Shot, to take a screenshot. I hit the copy button. And then I come over to my Jamboard and I Control V and paste it. And that's how I can bring fancy fonts into a Google Jamboard. Okay. So at this point, if I wanted this to be locked in the background, I'm going to refer back to the first segment of this tutorial where I put the text box over the top of it and it acts as a transparency or a screen overlay. So say you wanted to change the background color and I have a background color of blue. Now these fonts look a little awkward because they got the white background. We can fix this by clicking on the color pick eyedropper, and I'm going to get my color code off the background by clicking on it. And here's my color code. So I right click and I copy it. I close this out. I come over to my Google Doc, and I'm going to change the background on my Google Doc. So I click File. I go down to Page Setup at the bottom, Page Color, and I'm going to click the Custom plus sign. And I paste the color code for the background from the Jamboard and click OK. Then I select OK. And then you can see that the color is the same color as the Google Jam. And I can type whatever I want. I can select the font. I can change the font to whatever I want. And then I know this is going to be on blue and I want this to pop out, so I want the color to be white. Then I use my screenshot tool again, and I select the area that I want to screenshot. And I should have done a better job planning so the cursor wasn't right after the S, but I click copy. I come over to my Jamboard and I Control V paste. Now it looks like I just have a white font on the blue background, and you can't even notice that the box around it should be white, but it's not because we hit it and masked it with the color of the background from the Google Doc. Okay, so that's just another little trick of the trade with Google Jamboard. Again, if you wanted to lock this in, you could certainly put the text box over the top of it and then use that as a transparency to write on top of it.